Hello, ladies and gentlemen, gabestah here. This is the Gold Healer Challenge for the Proving Grounds, and this was introduced in patch 5.4. So, just like in the previous iterations, going from bronze to silver and silver now to gold, this will introduce a few new mechanics as well as ramp up the overall difficulty. The number of waves is up to 10 now, so things do get somewhat challenging near the end of this set of waves. So the name of the game really is keeping your tank topped off and conserving your mana for those later stages when the spike damage on the group gets pretty high. So if you have any mana-free heals for your particular class, try to use those whenever possible, and then you'll be able to save that mana. And I think I mentioned in the bronze guide for the healer that I decided to focus mostly on spirit in the reforging, because if you're not aware, your gear gets scaled down to 463 eye level. So your stats will be quite different than what you're normally used to in these challenges. So I focus on reforging for spirit, and if you really need a lot more regen or particular stat, you can actually gem for it, because gems are not reduced by the eye level reduction that everything else gets reduced by. Okay, so first couple waves, pretty simple. The second wave, you get one of the dudes that does a debuff on your groups, so you'll need to dispel that. And there's only one of them, so you can just dispel it immediately every time it's active if you want. And third wave, nothing special about this, just a couple normal mobs with the Hive Singer in there. This will generally be interrupted by your rogue and your mage automatically, but you can interrupt it if you want to. The AE doesn't do very much damage though, so it's not a big deal. And third wave is cleaned up pretty quickly. So wave number 4, you've got the first introduction to a tunneler, as well as a large flame caller. So as before, you want to focus the flame caller with your interrupts or stuns. This is one of the mobs that can do the most spike damage to your group. And watch its target of target frame. So I like to keep it targeted and then look at who it is targeting with its pyroblast casts. Try to keep that player topped off so that they're above 50% health or so, so that the pyroblast does not kill anybody. Now the tunnelers, what they do is essentially target a random group member for a short period, and they'll tunnel under the ground and attack them. So the warrior tank can get threat back, but of course it is an NPC, so you have to rely on the AI doing that, and sometimes there'll be a bit of damage on the player that the tunneler targets for a while. So halfway through, this is wave 5. You've got the illusionary tunneler and the aqualite, so make sure you dispel the aqualite's debuff, and then you get a second set of spawns on the same wave, which include a flame caller. So you can see I try to run over and interrupt its first cast, which is the one that leaves the puddles on the ground that are kind of dangerous, but I don't get to it in time. So it's not a big deal usually. Most of the NPCs will not stand in it, but just watch for that. And then just keep up on your dispels. Make sure you have some way to alert you when one of those debuffs is cast by an aqualite throughout this. And when there's only one active, you can always dispel every time. Now, if you want to save mana, you can let the debuff go off, which I just did on the hunter there, because he was not near anyone else, and the damage is only about 130,000 from the small guys. So you can just let that explode if it's not going to hit anybody else, and then basically use less mana than your dispel to just heal the damage afterward. So wave number 6 is the first introduction to a Conqueror. There you can see the big guy. So these guys are basically just large angry warrior type mobs that will use an enrage ability every so often. And this increases their size and their damage output for 10 seconds. And during this period, they're not stunnable either. So basically, this is a time when you have to really spam the tank, who should have threat on them. They'll also use a slam attack, which does a small cone attack in front of them. That can stun the targets that it hits. So again, just focus mostly on the tank during the periods when there's a Conqueror active. Wave 7, we've got small Conqueror, small tunneler, and hive singer. So this is not very difficult. Again, the Conqueror is going to be the main danger, and this will mostly focus on your tank, along with anyone that happens to be close for that AE slam. And I think I tab out here for something, I don't know what, but I can see the Windows working icon there. But back in, so again, the warrior's kind of getting beat on quite a bit, especially when that Conqueror enrages. So try to keep them topped off a little more than I do here. But again, I tabbed out. And then you can buy yourself time by using stuns while the Conqueror is not enraged, while he's in his normal size. And you can see by itself, it's pretty minor enemy. So we're pushing the last couple waves here. Wave 10 starts with a large flame collar and a small Conqueror. So this can be quite a bit of spike damage, especially on the tank. So watch those casts and don't be afraid to use a cooldown on the tank if things get really dicey. Also be mindful of the rest of the group because the pyroblasts will be spammed. And depending on which target your NPCs initially choose to DPS, you may have that flame collar active for quite a while. So again, you can use your own interrupts or stuns on the flame collar especially to buy yourself some breathing room so that most of your heals should then just be focused on the tank who has the Conqueror's attention. And once one or the other is killed in this wave, then things are very stable and you can relax at that point. And a couple seconds downtime leading into wave 9. So now we've got it flipped. We've got a small flame collar and a large Conqueror. So the same basic rules apply. The flame collar won't do nearly as much damage on random raid members, or group members rather. But the Conqueror does a lot of damage, especially when he's enraged there. You can see you get a second set of spawns in this wave. So again, top up the tank primarily, and then dispel when you can on the other group members from that Aqualight's casts. And you can see the DPS group members switch to that hive shaper rather than focusing on the Conqueror. And I don't know if they have AI programmed to do this sort of thing, or if it's just whatever happens to get threat by doing the most damage to them. If it is the damage, then it makes sense that they would attack the hive shaper because he would be the one to do AE damage to them. Anyway, so keep dispelling and then just focus on keeping the tank topped off and try to conserve as much mana as possible because the final wave is coming up and you will need to spam quite a bit on that one. So here you can see I'm around 65% mana, which is pretty good. You can see with the DPS, we didn't actually finish the wave before the next one spawned. And if that's the case, you're going to have double large Conquerors active on the tank for a while. So I use stun there to kind of keep them at bay a little bit until one of them is dead before they both enrage at the same time. So we only have one enraged large, which is good. And then you get a set of additional adds with a small flame collar and an Aqualight. So it's not the most dangerous addition. Again, the large Conqueror is going to do the majority of the damage, so focus your heals on the tank. But here we get a third set with another Conqueror and a Hive Shaper, and this is where things really start to get a little wild. So don't be afraid to use your cooldowns. This is the final wave, so you have nothing to save really at this point. And you should get Time Warp from the Mage as well, so your healing output can be quite high. So I'm just dispelling and then focusing primarily on the tank. Don't be afraid to use your spam heals, your less efficient ones. and any cooldown you have that you can apply to the tank, as well as stuns, especially anytime the Conqueror is not enraged, will help out a lot. And so we're starting to get things cleaned up a little bit, down to just the Conquerors who have a lot of health, so they're generally going to be the last to die. Also, they don't really get threat on the other group members. So another enrage hits. And again, just watch that tank's health. And once one of them dies, there the large goes down. Then it's just a matter of cleanup at this point. And you can see at the top right, the timer will pretty much expire before the NPCs are all killed, before the damage is done. So you're just waiting until they all die to actually get credit for the final wave. You have to finish it off. And there you go. Once the last Conqueror dies, you've got Gold Healer completed. As always, good luck, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe.